What happens when a billionaire tries to humiliate someone he thinks is beneath him? Julian Thorne, a titan of industry, assumed the waitress at the Empyrean was just another invisible face. He decided to make an example of her, insulting her intelligence, ambition, and worth in front of a silent, opulent dining room. He expected tears. He expected submission. What he didn't expect was that the woman he tried to destroy was the one person capable of dismantling his empire. The chandeliers dripped arrogance over the patrons below. Ava worked this floor 4 nights a week, polite and invisible, exactly how she wanted it. Table 12, the prime spot, was occupied by Julian Thorne, known in financial circles as the Silicon Vulture. He bought struggling tech companies, gutted them for patents, and sold the rest for profit. Ava had dealt with difficult customers before, but Thorne was a predator. He had sent back his appetizer twice, once for being tepid, once for being too symmetrical. Ava maintained her professional smile. "My apologies, Mr. Thorne. I will have the chef remake it immediately. Don't bother. Just bring the wine. Try not to drop it. It's worth more than your college education, assuming you have one." Ava remained composed. She presented the $5,000 bottle flawlessly, performing the ritual of service without error. Thorne's eyes narrowed as he stared, a hawk-like intensity daring her to slip. "You know," he said, loud enough for nearby tables, "this is all a little act, isn't it? A script for tips?" "I endeavor to provide good service, Mr. Thorne," Ava replied calmly. "This is what happens when you aim low. You spend your life perfecting mediocrity." Thorne spat, seizing the moment to humiliate her publicly. "Quit. This isn't a job. It's a trap for people with no drive or intelligence." The room grew silent. Ava's spine was straight, her eyes cold and assessing. "Do you have anything else to say, sir?" He snapped. "You're a nobody. You will never be more than a girl holding a bottle for someone like me." Ava's calm, unemotional response was the ultimate insult. "May I pour your wine now, sir?" Furious, Thorne backhanded the glass, spilling dark red wine over her uniform. "Pathetic. Get me your manager. I want her fired." Ava's voice remained steady. "Your volume does not equate to authority, and your wealth does not equate to intelligence. Neither gives you power here." She placed the bottle out of reach. "You told me I had no ambition. You just underestimated me." She left the restaurant through stunned diners, invoking the Red Protocol, a code alerting her father, Richard Sterling, SHE's founder, that a core value had been violated. A black sedan awaited. Ava changed into her professional attire and briefed her father. Julian Thorne publicly harassed an SHE employee. Davies prioritized the abuser over staff safety, breaking protocol. Immediate action is required. Richard Sterling, a quiet yet ruthless builder of empires, understood instantly. Thorne was a tenant in their flagship New York property. He would be reviewed, and Ava intended to handle it surgically. The morning after, Ava returned to the Empyrean, not as a waitress, but as an executive auditor. She entered the main dining room for a staff briefing. The manager, Mr. Davies, intended to lecture about customer service and obedience, but the front door swung open. Richard Sterling entered, flanked by executives, and by his side was Ava, commanding attention in a steel gray Chanel suit. "My name is Ava Sterling," she said, voice amplified, "Vice President of Operations for SHE. I am the acting auditor for this property. For the last 2 weeks, I've observed staff dedication, customer handling, and management failures firsthand. Mr. Davies prioritized a disruptive customer over employee safety. He failed. Effective immediately. His employment is terminated. Security will escort him out." The staff gasped. Relief and admiration filled the room. Ava promoted Sarah, the senior waitress, to general manager and outlined the employee-first safety protocol and a new patron conduct code. Respect staff, respect the space, respect the standard. "Phase 1 is complete," Ava said, leaving the dining room to attend Phase 2, Julian Thorne. The next morning, Julian Thorne woke to chaos. His phone buzzed incessantly. His CFO's voice was frantic. "Julian, Arthur Vance pulled a preliminary funding on the Sultec deal. He cited a crisis of confidence in leadership." Thorne's face turned pale. A dinner with a waitress had cost him millions. He lunged for solutions, calling lawyers, planning threats, convinced he could bulldoze through the Sterling team. Meanwhile, 2 floors above, in the Empyrean, Ava Sterling prepared her own reckoning. The entire morning staff gathered, including the smug Mr. Davies, who was about to give a self-congratulatory speech. The doors swung open. Richard Sterling entered, flanked by SHG executives, and beside him, Ava, in a sharp gray suit, radiating authority. Davies' face went from confident to pale terror. Ava addressed the room. "For the last 2 weeks, I've worked alongside you, seen your efforts, and seen fear dominate your management. Last night, a core value was breached. I was harassed, assaulted, and my dignity violated. Mr. Davies, instead of protecting staff, prioritized a single abusive customer. That ends today." She gestured to the stunned manager. "You're terminated, effective immediately." Security escorted him out. The staff remained in silence, absorbing the weight of what had just happened. Ava's presence wasn't punishment. It was a correction. She turned to Sarah, a senior waitress, and promoted her to general manager. Plans for retraining, safety protocols, and a new patron conduct code were announced. The Empyrean would no longer be a playground for wealthy bullies. Relief and pride swept through the staff. By 1:55 p.m., Ava arrived at the 60th floor boardroom for the meeting with Thorne. He swaggered in confident, surrounded by his lawyers. That confidence faltered when he saw her in the charcoal suit, her eyes sharp, unyielding. Richard Sterling took his seat at the head of the table, Ava beside him. Thorne froze. Ava began flat and precise. "Mr. Thorne, last night you engaged in harassment and physical assault against an SHG employee. You're a tenant under Section 4.1 of our lease. Your actions constitute a material breach." She presented the lease and evidence, videos from multiple patrons, affidavits, and a prior complaint from another tenant. Thorne stammered, trying to negotiate with money and apologies. Ava's voice, calm but cold, cut through. "This isn't about money. You cannot buy integrity. Thorne Industries is a material breach. You have 30 days to vacate all 40 floors." The room went silent. Thorne's lawyers flipped through lease copies, faces pale. He could not escape. Thorne pleaded, invoking collateral damage, jobs, families. Ava's response was surgical. "You weren't concerned about my job last night. You only care about yourself. The company is collateral. You are the virus. We are the cure." The CFO's phone buzzed. News of the meeting had hit the market. Thorne's stock plummeted. Ava continued, unveiling a criminal complaint for assault and battery. His legal team scrambled. Thorne finally broke completely, reduced from titan to a trembling man. Security escorted him and his lawyers to a service elevator, stripping away every shred of power he had clung to. Later, Richard Sterling placed a hand on Ava's shoulder. "Surgical," he said. Ava's plan had worked perfectly. The Empyrean began its 48-hour reset. Staff felt the weight lifted, pride restored. Sarah looked around, dazed but excited. Ava had transformed the culture. Respect for staff and the standard would now govern every interaction. Ava lingered at table 12, the infamous site of Thorne's humiliation. "It's not bad luck," she said. "It's a reminder, reserved for the hardest working staff to enjoy the view, not as servants, but as owners." The vulture was gone. The house was clean. And from 60 floors up, the future looked bright. Julian Thorne had learned the hard way. Stepping on someone may put you in their path, but underestimating them can be your last mistake. Real power isn't in wealth or volume. It's in integrity, respect, and the courage to act when no one is watching. Ava had turned a public attack into a decisive victory, preserving dignity, resetting culture, and showing that sometimes the person you try to humiliate is exactly the one who holds the power.